once. Number one in your program, there it is. My favorite professor, Professor Ben in class. I read your latest, okay, I see you there. I read your latest Substack, a big fan of all of your work, and I thought, well, this is quite provocative. Who benefits when companies blame AI for layoffs? The loudest voices about AI losses have the most to gain. So I just saw today, New York Post just listed this, Professor Ben, thanks for being on, that in the last 3 months, 52,050 people have been laid off in the tech industry, and they all say it's AI. What say you, Professor?
Everybody says that these layoffs are AI driven because that's what Wall Street and the investment community rewards. If you say you're able to lay off these people, because of the efficiencies of AI, it's a much better story than, you know what, we mismanaged, we overhired over the last 2 years, we've got to cut back.
And the media likes this as well, as you pointed out in your Substack, Professor, that the media loves this headline as opposed to other headlines like, oh, we hired a whole bunch of people during COVID and now we have to slice some of our full-time employees.
So my post focused on the story of Block, Jack Dorsey's company formerly known as Square, and the hiring that this company did over the period of like 2019 to 2023 was extraordinary, going from 3,800 employees to almost 13,000 employees, 3.5 times growth, and their revenue didn't grow much during that period of time. So what are you going to do? They're not growing revenue. They need to do something to get their profits back in line. So they laid off 4,000 people, which may well have needed to do, but those aren't AI efficiencies that they're gaining through that. What investment community wants to hear, what the media wants to hear is, oh my gosh, look at AI, it's having all this impact. And AI is having an extraordinary impact, but not to the tune of allowing a company to lay off 4,000 people. I
was really taken and somewhat flummoxed when I first read it, and then I read more about her. She ran the Cash app there at Block. I'm going to mispronounce her last name. She's from Seattle. Takeda is the woman that was given the job. She was told they're going to fire every single person. I think 40 or 50% of everybody in the department is going to go. They said, but listen, you stay. We're going to give you a 90% increase of your paycheck. And within 10 minutes, she sent out a letter basically saying, I will not be a party to this. I'm quitting as well. And I'm not going to give you 2 weeks because if this is the way you treat people, you don't deserve a 2-week notification. I'm gone.
We have a cultural shift that's happened in the tech community. It used to be that layoffs were something that you sort of hung your head about and were viewed as sort of a necessity that we just don't really want to do, but we do when we have to. And there are companies that over years have done sort of a trimming, like, oh, let's take the bottom 10% and we'll make our company stronger. That's not what we're talking about here. This is simply now sort of beating the chest saying, look, what a great CEO I am. My status as a CEO depends on my showing off how many people I've laid off, whether or not it's actually good for the business. And that's why you have this resignation and protest, because she's saying, look, I don't want to be part of this. And frankly, I don't understand why anybody would want to work for a company that treats employees this way.
The Fortune magazine did a survey. You also have this in your Substack. 59% of managers say they expect to be laying off and to become more efficient and use AI. But then you did the numbers on it, and it just didn't make any sense because efficiency and AI is only being used by about 4.5%. So I guess it sends a signal to Wall Street, yeah, we're going all AI, when really what they were doing is we're just making the cuts because they overhired.
When you add really 8,000 people over 4 years and don't increase your revenue much at all, what are you going to do? I mean, you have to do cutbacks. And this is I'm not just picking on Block, because this was pervasive across the tech community. Post-COVID, there was this enormous hiring boom that was across the industry. We were going through an understandable retrenchment now to say, look, we need to right size the number of employees. And we are seeing some extraordinary impact from AI, particularly in areas like software development, customer support. Individually, a lot of us are getting productivity gains, but there's a reason why 80% of companies that deploy enterprise level AI report no productivity benefits, because it's early. These types of change take a long time to digest, and we're going to see more gains from AI in the future, but it's going to take time for that to be realized.
Okay, so what you're saying is that everything we're seeing right now is kind of a canard. It's a bit of a smokescreen. The layoffs that are happening is not because of AI. It's because they want to keep the shareholders happy and make it seem like the CEOs are efficient. There's the story of, I think, Klarna. Yeah, they fired, I think, 700 people. They said, we're going to do AI for customer service. And then the customers were like, we hate this customer service AI stuff. So what'd they end up doing, Ben?
So they wound up having to hire people back, except they didn't hire as many people back because they had a huge fall off in customer demand because customers voted with their dollars like, we think you're being unfair and we don't want to reward that. So they actually suffered on both ends. They had a worse work environment for their employees, and their customers voted with their dollars to say, we don't support that.
I was going to say, so if this is temporary, third quarter, fourth quarter profits, price earnings ratios, market cap, all that stuff being constantly looked at. But this is, we'll use the word threat. AI is a threat to the marketplace, right? It will be coming, maybe not right now, but it is coming. And it will be changing how people interact with their jobs and the jobs that'll be replaced. What are some of the worst predictions you've seen, the most dire? And then what is something somewhere in the middle, and where do you fall on that, Professor?
Listen, I have seen this really what I think is ridiculous estimate that 10% of all white collar jobs will be gone. When the prediction was made, it was 5 years ago, which would be now 4 years from now. And this type of impact of AI is not yet showing up in the job numbers. Challenger and Gray did an analysis of all of the layoffs that took place in 2025. The number one driver of layoffs in 2025 was Doge. AI did not make the top 5 list for reasons for layoffs. We have a vibrant economy. It makes sense that this technology will change the workforce and the workplace in the future, just as the internet, social media, personal computing, and you go back through these various waves of technological innovation, it's going to make a difference, but it's going to take time for us to digest this. Just because I can automate one part of the software development job does not mean my entire company is now suddenly AI only.
As a professor, you have young people sitting there in the classroom with you. I'm sure AI comes up all the time because they're making this investment in their future. They're spending this money there at the University of Texas in Austin, and they're looking into a future that some see as fairly dystopian where, what's even going to be out there for me? Because 20 years ago, code. You got to do code. Whatever you do, you got to get into that part of it. What are some of these young college students saying to you? What are their concerns?
So the concerns of my students today is, what type of work environment am I going to be graduating into? Will I have opportunities to get jobs? Will my skills still be relevant? And it is a huge uncertainty about how and the ways in which the workforce is going to change. My message to my students and my message to your listeners would be, look for ways that you can take advantage of AI yourself today just by being proficient with chat or solving a business problem. Any way that you can personally use these tools makes you better informed about what they can do. It gives you a more realistic understanding of the limitations, what they can't do today. And becomes a skill that will be more and more valuable as these tools develop.
Do you think, I was talking to a friend of mine who wishes not to have his name said publicly, but he is very involved in a whole bunch of giant corporations. And I quoted Milton Friedman. I said, well, the business of business is business. And he said, I have been talking to major heads of big corporations. And he goes, I think there's going to be a change coming where businesses start treating their employees more holistically, in the sense that there's more respect for them as human beings. than just simply, a full-time employee getting these benefits, filling this thing, that companies, there'll be a separation between those that are just hard line, bottom line, whatever the thing is, and sacrificing humans to the gods of Wall Street. And then the second part will be the other corporations will be, no, you come here and it's about us respecting you and what you can do for us. Do you think that's possible?
I think we see that today. There are companies all over America that make a point of taking care of their employees, treating their employees as partners, and really recognizing that the value of an employee accumulates over time as they gain experience, as they gain connections with your customers, as they build networks internally. And we have a vibrant economy. I would not be a person to say we should never do layoffs, because if we do that, we become more like Europe, where today Europe struggles to have any growth at all because nobody moves around job-wise because of the lack of movement. So we're not saying never lose your job or never get laid off or never change jobs, but look for companies that respect their employees, take care of their employees. Those companies are out there. The companies that beat their chest and say, look, we're so smart for laying off all these people, those aren't good working environments. You're not going to be satisfied, and look for work elsewhere.
Yeah, I think the idea of loyalty, where, we go to the 50s and 60s and the person worked there at that one company. They didn't have any other job. They were there for 35 years. They leave, they get the golden watch, and off they go. And then the next generation hopes they could have the same sort of thing. That went away. It stopped. That sort of relationship ended. And I think it sent a message to the employee, well, why should I be loyal to you? You're not loyal to me. I'm going to be here until I find another job, so I'm not really going to give you everything that I have. And then we had quiet quitting and everything else. So do you think that it's starting to change, where the employer saying, I will be as loyal to you as I can possibly be, and I'm going to ask you in return, this is a 50-50 relationship, 60-40, depending on what's happening in the person's life and what's happening in the business. And those businesses will be able to grow dynamically when they're up against businesses that are just bottom line people AIing everything?
We're not going to return to an environment where we have employment for life at a company where you expect to just go there and stay. Our economy is too vibrant. The needs change too much. And frankly, that wasn't really good for anybody to get trapped into a job that never changed. There are companies that take care of their employees today, and there are companies who don't. And with AI, we have this opportunity now to potentially make the work environment better. I mean, the types of jobs that AI can automate, those are jobs that are pretty repetitious. They really aren't the most rewarding kinds of work. And my expectation would be just like when Microsoft Excel came along. The number of bookkeepers today in America is half of what it was before Excel. Bookkeepers used to be highly in demand. We didn't have Excel. Now we've got Excel, much less demand for bookkeepers, but financial managers have been in very high demand, and the growth in jobs for financial managers far outweighed the loss from bookkeepers. Being a financial manager is a better job than being a bookkeeper, and we should expect and look for there to be continued opportunities to skill up, to create new opportunities. There will be new businesses that come along as a result of this technology.
Well, that is a positive word, looking towards the future. And just the other thing you glean, as you mentioned, Professor, is don't fear it. Understand it, see it as a tool, learn how that tool can help you become more productive as well, as opposed to trying to hide from what is the future coming upon us. The University of Texas fight song takes you out. Professor Ben, my best to your wife. Tell her I said hi, I love her, and I'll see her hopefully in Napa or wherever she's going to be making that wine.
Sonoma, and we'll look forward to seeing you both in Sonoma and also in Austin for some Texas barbecue. Come visit your daughter.
I will. Thanks, Professor Ben.